Live from Haywood's on the Green in Mill Hall. Welcome to this week's edition of the Lock Haven University Coaches Show. For the next half an hour, we will talk with Lock Haven University coaches and break down the week that was and look ahead to the week to come. I'm Jonathan Schwab. This show presented by the Bear Country Sports Network. If you're with us from Haywood's on the Green on this Tuesday night, thank you so much for coming out and supporting LHU Athletics and the show. If you're listening on the Bear Country Sports Network, we are about 45 minutes away from Lock Haven University Wrestling, Eastern Wrestling League action, Lock Haven and Clarion. And we start the show off this week with Lock Haven University head cross country and co-head indoor and outdoor men's and women's track and field coach, Aaron Russell. Coach, I told you before we got on, I've been practicing all day. Make sure I get the name right. It's great to have you on once again and right into the thick of things with indoor track and field season.
Definitely. Thanks for having me, Jonathan.
First of all, you have the layoff over the semester break, no competition for over a month. How do you make sure the kids stay in shape over that time where they're also not in classes?
Yeah, a lot of that really falls on them. I mean, we came back 2 weeks before classes started. We had 2 competitions before classes started, but we really look at those as rust breakers because most of them don't have an indoor track or an outdoor track, even with the weather, to get on at home. So they got to get creative. It's definitely, like I said, good to have them back early, and I think we really just started to get our feet under us this past week. So
I know you've had multiple competitions in January, as you said, since you got back to it. I'll read off some of the competitions on the little yellow sheet. The Spartan Regional Invite, the Orange and Maroon Invitational, the Penn State National, the Bison Open. So you guys have been busy. You've traveled outside the state. You've traveled to locales about an hour away as well, competing in Selinsgrove as well as in Lewisburg at Bucknell. What's the objective in these January competitions for your athletes?
First and foremost is to go after qualifying times for our conference championship, and depending on the level our athletes are at right now, to go after national competition. So that's definitely what we're after. This past weekend, for example, we split between Penn State and Bucknell. We had some athletes who were a bit more advanced in their talent level and things, so they went to Penn State against some much better competition. For example, Penn State had a world record set there this weekend indoors. So definitely some upper class, Stanford teams like that visiting, and it's great that we have athletes on our team who can jump in there and be a part of athletes at that level. The other group, Bucknell's meet wasn't anything to complain about either. It was had some great competition. We had some great performances, and I think our kids are really rounding into shape and really impressed with what they were able to do.
Adrian Puglia, one of those competing at Penn State, an NCAA provisional mark in the weight throw. Puglia, a veteran in your program, but what convinced you, and justifiably so, obviously, based on the result, that she would fit in well in that setting?
At Penn State?
Yes.
Yeah. She's really come back for this 5th year. She's enrolled in grad school right now. And she's come back with a purpose. She's had a few meets she wasn't as satisfied with early on, but we just kept practicing, and she's really stuck with it, trusted the process. It's been difficult with coaching situation with not having a throws coach right now, but we've all been really able to help chip in there and things, and so we have a number of 5th-year seniors that are really banding together, helping each other, and it's really starting to pay off for all of them.
Joined by Lock Haven University head cross country and co-head indoor and outdoor men's and women's track and field coach Aaron Russell on the Lock Haven University Coaches Show. Aaron, you just held something that is very interesting. Even when you have a throws coach available to you on a meet day, there is so much going on. There's only so much of you guys as a coaching staff. How do you split up your time and try to make yourselves available to as many kids as possible while a meet is ongoing?
I tell you what, when athletes see their coaches when they're competing as an athlete. They don't understand. They don't get why coaches are sweating and why coaches are tired. It's amazing when they come back as student assistants or they join the coaching ranks themselves, and they're like, "I'm so exhausted. I understand now." We're all over the place, and we, if my assistant's at the jumps, we try to run over. I try to be somewhere else if my specific kids aren't competing. And I tell you what, we have especially right now, we have a great network of alumni coaches. We had 4 or 5 alums of our program who were coaching at Bucknell. 2 of them, or one of them is a throws coach, was there helping us out as well. And things. So it was they really banded together and are being supportive of our program.
Do you go walkie-talkies to communicate all that, or nowadays is it more cell phones?
It's a little easier indoor. There's only a 200-meter track to cover. Outdoor, when the throws could be a mile away and stuff, it gets a lot more challenging. You definitely take a change of shirts and things. So, luckily, the advent of the cell phone has made things a lot better for us. We used to have back in the day walkie-talkies, which seems kind of funny now, but it's one of the things with our sport is a lot of what we teach and relate to them is, I can't be there in their ear for every minute of a 10K and things. So a lot of the learning process happens before, and I think that's why we have such independent athletes out there that they've really know what to do when they get there and implement what they've learned.
On the men's side, a young man who has acquitted himself very well, very quickly, Brian Zimmerman, PSAC Track and Field Athlete of the Week, setting a school record in the 200-meter dash at the Bison Open. What has he done in his early LHU career to impress you?
He was probably one of our top prospects ever coming in, and he's a LHU football athlete as well. We share. Had a good freshman season, kicking things off with them. He's really starting around into shape. Had a phenomenal high school career out of Mifflintown High School. Got injured his senior year, but we kept a lot of faith in his ability and things. And that record he took down was a pretty good record. It was set on a banked track, which was one of the fastest in the country, the record he broke. He ran it on a tight-turned, flat track, which is much slower. So we're excited the next few weeks to see what he can go out there and do. This weekend he's going after the 400, so he's a machine. Hopefully, big, bright future ahead of him. He definitely has the capability. He's ranked 8th in the country right now of adding All-American to his name.
So it's really a matter of how many times over the course of his Lock Haven career he breaks his own record.
It is now, yeah.
And for those of you not in the building tonight, Coach Russell pointing out head football coach David Tainer. Brian played football for Lock Haven during his freshman campaign, I believe a part of the kickoff coverage team. So he was getting his dashes in during the fall.
Yeah, and that's been a part. He's been used to being a 2 or 3 sport athlete in high school. Actually, in high school he played baseball and did track and field at the same time. So he's definitely a time management connoisseur.
Also on the men's side, I want to ask you about your throwers. You've got some outstanding, talented kids: Jimmy Werner, Lemire Dodson, Shane Beavers. When you have all those guys, how does it help the program as a whole when they're pushing each other day in, day out?
Yeah, it's tremendous. And I mentioned earlier just even them helping each other. If one's having a bad day, the other, they pick each other up for sure. At meets, they're there analyzing each other, helping each other out and things. So that's definitely huge. But in the same way, they're a competitive group. So I think this weekend Lemire moved ahead of Jimmy by like 2 inches on our all-time list. They're both up there in the top 6 or 7. Lemire hit the NCAA provisional. I think Shane had hit it in the shot put earlier. So Jimmy's right there on the verge of it. He's ready. So it's exciting.
Our one for fun with Aaron Russell. We're here to talk sports. We so often talk sports because it is what we're here to do. But what is your favorite non-sports hobby?
Non-sports hobby. I enjoy eating. I don't know if that's something that should be a hobby, so I'll go with cooking. Maybe my wife might Agree with that. So, not too bad.
Well, we'll check with Jody next time we see her.
I left her home. You have to take my word for it.
Well, continued success as you move forward in this 2017 indoor track season. Lock Haven head cross country and co-head indoor and outdoor men's and women's track and field coach Aaron Russell. Thank you so much for the time, and again, best of luck as you continue in your season.
Thank you, Jonathan.
When we come back on the LHU Coaches Show, we will meet up with Lock Haven head wrestling coach Scott Moore. You are listening to and taking in the Lock Haven University Coaches Show, presented by the Bear Country Sports Network. Welcome back to the Lock Haven University Coaches Show, presented by the Bear Country Sports Network. We are live from Haywood's on the Green on this Tuesday evening, and if you are at Haywood's on this Tuesday night, we appreciate it. If you're listening on the Bear Country Sports Network, we are about a half an hour from Lock Haven University Wrestling as they host Clarion. And right now I am joined by Lock Haven University head wrestling coach Scott Moore. Coach Moore, a busy week last week and a busy week to come this week.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of the type of time of year where it's a grind for us, and we're fitting a lot of competitions in and trying to get the most out of our schedule, and at the same time trying to prep and get ready for a strong finish to the 2016-17 wrestling season.
Starting off on the highest note possible, let's talk Thomas Haynes, the reigning PSAC Wrestler of the Week, the reigning EWL Wrestler of the Week, now the number 10 wrestler at 285 pounds in the heavyweight division. And big reason why, not just the dominant victory at Cleveland State, but a second consecutive win over nationally ranked Billy Miller of Edinburgh. We'll talk about that match specifically in a moment, but just in the big picture, how has Haynes adapted to being in competition and wrestling on a regular basis, again, after a couple years, not doing that as much away from the day-to-day?
Yeah, just he's starting to get really comfortable with his, wrestling and his technique and conditioning, and he, starting to put it all together. And, as everybody, it's a maturing process throughout the season. And he's a type of guy who has a great natural feel, a lot of strength, very athletic for a heavyweight, and really starting to hit his own near the end of the season here. And just wrestling with a lot of confidence. Wrestling with a lot of heart and just a lot of mental toughness going out there and facing some of these, top 10 heavyweights in the country. And, he's hitting his peak at the right time, and I think he can only get better and really make a strong finish towards a national title, an All-American finish, and really help the Bald Eagles and, make a strong push this season.
Let's talk now about that Haynes-Miller match. Second time. The first time was in Lock Haven. This one at Edinburgh. Both 4-3 results, but a different path to 4-3. How'd you characterize the second showdown?
Well, I mean, it's just being a winner and knowing what you have to do to win the match. And, I think he's 3 or 4 points better on a good day. But knowing that you got to ride your opponent out, knowing that, it's going to take a lot of mat returns, a lot of grinding on top, and but stayed patient the whole time, pushed the pace of the match, and just controlled a lot of the match and the environment going on. And, I think from the start of the third period, he knew he could win the match. He knew he was going to ride him out. And that's really what the difference is at this point, is just confidence and believing in himself and understanding what it's going to take to be an All-American and what it's going to take to beat those top 10 guys. And, that's what's exciting, is I think he's really starting to peak, but he's still a long way to go before he hits his true potential. So only great things that come from Thomas and the rest of the team, and, excited for their progress and then, just really picking it up at the end of the year here and making a push to, finish an exciting season.
Now, Thomas is here. He's behind the camera about 6 feet away from us inside Haywood's on this Tuesday evening. Now, Thomas, if you can hear me, did you know you were going to ride him out in that third period? And he just nodded. So he absolutely knew.
100% all day.
Now, last Friday was quite a day for you. You wrestled 2 matches in 2 different locations. You were supposed to wrestle Cleveland State on Thursday. That match was moved to Friday. It was an adventure on Thursday that led you to wrestle on Friday. What happened for wrestling fans who are interested in how you ended up wrestling at noon and 7 p.m. on Friday?
Yeah, I mean, the initial plan was to, get out of Lock Haven, around 11:30, 11:45, and get up to Cleveland and plenty of time to warm up and to cut some weight and to weigh in at 6 o'clock, wrestle at 7. But on the way up there, the bus alternator, one of the lines broke, so we got stuck about 15 minutes from where I grew up. So it was kind of an interesting situation, and being familiar with the area. And I called some friends and my parents and tried to get some buses and some cars, and they kept assuring us that this is going to be fixed soon. And then about an hour and a half in, they notified us that they still didn't have the part. So at that point in time, we just worked through the process with Coach Stahura and Coach Flynn at Edinboro, and just made the right decision to postpone the duel until Friday to give our guys the best chance to get a proper warm up and get the most out of the trip. And I think that was the right decision. It turned out well, and wrestling 2 matches a day isn't uncommon. In a tournament, it's very common. In a dual meet setting, it's a little bit different, but our guys rebounded well. They did a great job at Cleveland State, and those are the type of situations as a wrestler, making weight, wrestling, and competing. It's just one of those things that you learn to do as an athlete, and I thought they did a great job, but I was proud of the way we competed in both matches.
You're absolutely right that it is something that we've seen in the wrestling realm where kids have to wrestle multiple times on a day. What I found interesting that was a little bit different is everything is based upon the schedule, and you operate the mental, the physical preparation based on the schedule. So as a coaching staff, how did you help your wrestlers adapt to a sudden change in the schedule with short notice?
Yeah, I mean, it was actually, I think our guys liked the way it worked out better, only weighing in once. Only having to really get up for one day, and also being able to sleep in a little bit on Friday, and just enjoy the fact that we could get in and have a meal in between matches. And so it was a lot of different activities in between, but the same focus, going into each match individually and as a team, just with a plan. And from the Cleveland State duel, dominating performance by our guys, a lot of bonus points, a lot of effort, and I think that let the guys relax a little bit, knowing that we had a great win, they wrestled well, and they can enjoy the trip over to Edinboro and just start to mentally prepare in between matches and get ready for what was a great battle with a top 25 program in the country and a lot of individual matchups with nationally ranked competitors. So I think it was as a better fit for us. You never know how things are going to work out. Sometimes they work out for a reason, and that was one of those situations where I think our guys were relieved that they didn't have to make weight 2 days in a row. And it was an exciting environment, and Edinboro being close to where I grew up, and having a lot of local fans, a lot of my local coaches that I worked with as a youth wrestler and high school wrestler there in attendance. So all in all, it was a great weekend for us.
We'll talk a little bit more about that weekend. I know there's a lot to look ahead to also, and we'll talk about that as well when we come back. This is the Lock Haven University Coaches Show from Haywood's on the Green, presented by the Bear Country Sports Network. Welcome back to the Lock Haven University Coaches Show from Haywood's on the Green in Mill Hall, presented by the Bear Country Sports Network. Jonathan Schwab, Lock Haven University head wrestling coach Scott Moore. And Scott, I'm not sure if the camera is picking it up, but it looks like we also have a third guest joining the segment as well, off to your right. And apparently she just picked up on what was happening because she is gone.
She's sharp.
I would expect nothing less, Scott. We're talking about your team's previous week, a win at Cleveland State, a dominant win, 35-9. Then you go to Edinboro, and Lewis Williams filling in for the injured Ronnie Perry at 141. An overtime win, 5-3. Lewis, somebody who wrestled at 133 earlier in the year, bumped up, filling in for Ronnie Perry. What does that do for his confidence to go on the road against a program the caliber of Edinboro and earn an overtime win for you?
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, seeing him go out there and, early on, obviously he was a little smaller than his opponent. It was, starting to watch a match, and, halfway through the second period, I think the whole bench started to realize that he could win the match. And he kept the same intensity throughout and really just wore his opponent down, stay focused, pushed the pace, got him hit for stalling late in the third period to go to overtime. And, something we preach to our guys all the time in overtime, you got to shoot first, you got to be aggressive. And, that's what he did. He got a great shot. It took him 15 or 20 seconds to finish, but he stayed focused, stayed on the attack, and won the match. And very ironic because last year he filled in at 133 for Bobby Ream. Same situation, went out, made it to overtime, and ended up getting taken down in overtime. So this was something, a little bit of revenge, is, if you will, for him to go against Edinburgh. Same situation, filling in, and to come out and get a win in overtime was pretty cool. And I think it sparked a little bit of momentum for us as well. And Edinburgh's got a good team. Every single weight class, they have solid competitors. So just to get a win there, and knowing that we're obviously we have a lot of chances later in the matchups. It was fun and just a good confidence booster for him going into the rest of his career.
So now you have a few days to catch your breath, and finally you get to wrestle back at home inside the Thomas Fieldhouse. It's been a while. How much are you looking forward to it?
We're excited. I mean, we have a lot of different things going on. Thursday night's ROTC night, so we have them coming. Friday night's obviously senior night, but we're trying to get the students involved. We're giving away some different prizes. So yeah, it's always great to compete at the Thomas Fieldhouse. We're excited about some of the locals who haven't been to matches yet due to conflicting schedules, and excited about the parents and some of the local high schools coming back to the matches, and not much of to wrestle Clarion, one of our EWL rivals that we have great matches with every year. It should be a lot of competitive duels, a lot of great matchups, and for the first time this year, we're going to have our full lineup as far as everybody at the weight class. That we feel that is going to be most competitive for us, with Ronnie Perry back in the lineup, Corey Hazel back in the lineup, with DJ Fellman at 133, and so on. I think it's going to be a great duel. I hope it comes down to heavyweight. That's where I'm at right now. If it comes down to heavyweight, I think we're going to do all right.
So what are the chances that we get to see the marquee matchup at 141 that we did not get to see at PSACs?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a pretty good chance. I know from our end, Ronnie's been back training for about a week. As most of you guys know, he had a concussion, came back, had a little bit of a foot injury, if you will, but he's back, been training hard. I think he's excited about this matchup, and should be one of the marquee matchups amongst a few in this dual meet. And a win by Ronnie Perry over Brock Zackrell, I think, will help spark us with a big win over Clarion.
So Clarion, 7 p.m. on Thursday. And for those of you listening on the Bear Country Sports Network, that is coming up in about 20 minutes. It'll get started, the pre-match, in about 5 minutes. And then Friday, senior night, you welcome Sacred Heart to town. And then Sunday, the Matt Town Open Part 2, or Part 2 for those of you not fluent in Francais. So, as you said, a lot to look forward to over the next 4 or 5 days.
Yeah, that's a great way to finish our season. Come out, get 2 dual meet wins, and then come back on Sunday, which is more of a tournament for our younger guys and red shirts to get that extra competition and probably a few starters. But to be able to compete at home, to finish at home in the field house with 2 big wins, and let our guys compete at home, sleep in their own beds, and come out with that fight and intensity that we preach all season, and to get some of the locals and local business people and some of the high schools and in the gym watching us compete, setting the tone for the rest of the season, and getting everybody fired up about a strong finish. EWL, going for the EWL championship this year, and hopefully a top 25 finish at the NCAA tournament, which I think is well within reach.
Our one for fun for Scott Moore. You yourself were an outstanding collegiate wrestler. Going back to your athletic career, what is the toughest practice you can ever remember having to go through?
Toughest practice. We used to do a lot of, I was telling guys earlier today, when one of our coaches who was a world champion, we'd come back from a competition on Saturday, and his belief was you had to push through the hardest part of the season, or part of the week would be the day after you compete. So we'd always come back the next day and lift and wrestle and do grind matches. And, I can remember those workouts as basically you don't have time to recover, but that's the best time to basically overcome mental toughness, to overcome, being sore, not having a great performance the day before, or just to really come back with a great workout, level-headed and push for a strong week. And I always remember those workouts because we were the most sore, and just kind of you had to really get yourself up for those practices, and you knew it was going to be hard, but the rest of the week was going to be a little bit easier, and obviously looking forward to competition at the end of the week. So.
Lock Haven University head wrestling coach Scott Moore, thank you, as always, for the time, and we look forward to seeing your team over the course of this week.
Thank you.
That'll do it for this week's edition of the Lock Haven University Coaches Show. Thanks to Aaron Russell and Scott Moore. For those of you who came out to Haywood's on this Tuesday, we appreciate it greatly. For those of you listening on the Bear Country Sports Network, Coming up next, it'll be Lock Haven University Wrestling. LHU hosting Clarion, Derek Caldwell, and I on the call. Thank you for being a part of the Lock Haven University Coaches Show, presented by the Bear Country Sports Network.